that was a great presentation by Joe. As always, lots and lots of content. So I'm not going to go over anything about the copper market because we've heard a long presentation on that. But I will talk about Mundoro. So forward-looking statements is an important part of what we talk about in the exploration business. Sorry, am I clicking the wrong button? Or is this the button here? Okay. And so really, what do we do? And that was a great introduction, Eric. We are essentially, we generate a portfolio of properties. And as a result of that, we also generate royalties that come along with those properties. So we like to coin it as a new royalty generator that can actually create new royalties in the business that hadn't actually existed before these properties came into our portfolio. So how do we do that? We essentially work with partners. Right now, we've got Vale and Jogmec, two companies that Joe mentioned, and we've got two more in the works that are coming this year, and I think that's going to be exciting to see kind of a diversification of partners. We definitely focus primarily on copper, and why do we do that? Well, first and foremost, we fundamentally believe in the future of copper. There is definitely a supply constraint, and we need more projects in the industry, and not just picking up what we already know out there, but also generating new assets and new discoveries. We also have one of the lowest G&As in our peer group, which just means that more money goes into the ground. And of course, we have actually been generating payments from our partners for the last 5 years exactly from this strategy. So it's not something that happened overnight. It's taken a lot of hard work to put together. And this year, for the first time in 2022, we're going to be generating over $1 million in payments from our partners from all of these projects. So we think that's tremendous upside. Obviously, I'll go through a slide a little bit later that talks about where that puts us in the peer group and the re-rating opportunity. There are going to be 5 active programs this year, so a lot of drills will be turning. And again, that's what you want in a generator company. You want to have the opportunity for a lot of new discoveries. And then I've got a case study at the end, which I think Eric's going to really like, of an example of how this model works. Okay, so where are we? We are in Eastern Europe, and why are we there? Because it's the Tethyan belt, and it's the western portion. It's the most stable part of the belt. There is some really solid operations that have been operating for well over 100 years in the Timok region. The Bore mine started mining at 20% copper and started working its way down, and it's still at around 2%. So there is a lot more potential in this district, but there isn't a lot of companies that are exploring. So we were really one of the first movers there before the Chukatopeki discovery, and that created a tremendous opportunity for us to build a land package that is really the largest in the region, which is why all of the majors always come to us for joint ventures and earn-ins. And as Eric alluded to, we have expanded into the Southwest U.S. We believe strongly in the United States copper production history and the ability of more copper deposits to be found. The Laramide Belt is not a small belt. It has produced significant pounds of copper, and it's kind of fallen a little bit by the wayside in terms of new exploration. And why? Yes, it is difficult to permit, but the United States by far is not the only country where it's difficult to permit. It is difficult to permit everywhere. And if you have the right approach and you have a long-term approach and if you have deep pockets and you can go through that process, a lot of good operations can come online. So I think it's about availability of capital as well. And yes, Resolution is obviously one of the best known projects there, but there are actually producing mines right now. Freeport is running 5 operations there. So let's not always look at the negative. Let's also recognize that there's a lot of good operations that are producing copper. So particularly the Tethyan belt here, Timok, you can see it in a nice little bright orange color. You know, it's a magmatic complex. It had a lot of faulting. So some of those mineralizations, some of those porphyries and some of the sulfidation systems came to surface, meaning, you know, they were shifted up. They were immediately there. There were the obvious choices to start mining first, but there's still a lot of cover in that area. And so that's really what we've been focusing on, is those undercover potential very close to the existing known fault structures and porphyry mines in that district. Now, porphyry exploration can be very, very expensive. We've all seen how many dollars can go into drilling out alteration and still trying to find your way exactly where that main stockwork veining is. So you need some deep pockets, and we think it's important to have partners here. So that's why we've got Vale as a partner. There are currently 2 programs that we are running for them. So that's what's a little bit different about Mundoro. We don't just create the opportunity and then hand it off and expect payments. We're right there with the partner, and we're running it. We have technical committee meetings. Yes, of course, they provide technical input, and we definitely want it because it's very hard to get a solid geophysicist nowadays, but we are running those programs. So all that exploration that's happening over a 10-year time frame for multiple partners on multiple programs is going through one exploration team. And that creates a very unique intellectual property type of arrangement. So we take that knowledge of what's good practices, what worked, why didn't it work, what was different in that particular rock unit. We take those learnings and we apply them to the next project. And you know what? You'd think that the partners would have some issue with competition, but in fact, they love that. They love the fact that we're the ones who drilled on Borsco, and we're the ones who drilled on Tilva Roche, and so we're the ones testing their next target and looking at the data. So all of that, I think, is a really interesting model for the generator companies. Now, obviously, we're in the business to give 100% ownership to the partner. We are never going to stand on a stage and tell you we're going to become miners. We know what we do well, and that's what we stick to, and that's what creates a really great partnership with our partners. They're the miners. At a certain point, we want to hand over the keys, let them run with the project, but at the early days, at the onset, when there's testing, when they don't have troops on the ground to figure out, well, what exactly does an andesite look like here that's partially mineralized? So we give them that intellectual knowledge up front, we run the programs, and as they become successful, they will get handed over to the partner. So that's how the partnerships work. We love Timok. There's lots of undercover. There's lots of great anomalies, and we're drilling every year, so please keep note of that. We've just signed an LOI with a new major miner that's not on the map here, which I think is really exciting. And basically tells you that these major miners who are going through their own political risk and due diligence are illustrating that, yep, this is a part of the world I want to be in, not just from a technical merit point of view, but also from a geopolitical point of view. So I think that's going to be an important milestone to see in Mundoro in 2022 is once we sign the definitive agreement, we've announced the LOI. So we're going to see a program here, and there's going to be drill testing on that program by the end of the year because the target is already there, stockwork veining directly on surface with a porphyry system. Then as we travel towards the southeast into Bulgaria, we have, for the first time, the first company found a sediment-hosted copper deposit in the northwest part of the country. We have officially gotten the contract signed with the government. We did a generative program with JOGMEC 3 years ago. We showed them 69 targets, and one of them was, looks like we've got a sediment-hosted system here on the northwest side of the country. And we just coincidentally were on site at Bor and Timok with Dick Silito. And Dick's like, I just did a 3-year study on sediment-hosted copper systems. I don't remember seeing anything in Bulgaria. I said, well, let's hop in a car and go on over and take a look. We're only a 4-hour drive away. We went on and we have confirmed it is a sediment-hosted copper system. It is actually an old mine from the 1950s. They did actually characterize it correctly. And that is a tremendous opportunity. And I think, again, this just speaks to the fact that Eastern Europe and this western portion of the Tethyan belt has a considerable amount of opportunity, and it's just not enough juniors that are exploring it. So we're really excited about what we have. And it is 100% funded by JOGMEC. So this is why that model is so attractive. So the Laramide Belt is very interesting. We've started a generative program with Vale, and we've already signed our first designated project. We expect to be in a position to be able to be drill testing by the end of the year. A lot of people are surprised by that. They assume that in the United States, it takes a very long time to get things going. But in fact, in a matter of 9 months, we have a project, we've mapped, we've sampled, we've got geophysics, and we're going to be drill testing. So keep an eye out for that. I think one of the things, I'm going to skip through so many of my slides because I generally don't like to follow them, but they're all available online, so please come to our website and ask us some questions. But one of the things I do want to show you is this slide, because we get a lot of questions about this. This is, well, how do you really make money from the generator model? I understand exploration, there's a great drill hole, and a company does really well. Well, the same effect can happen in a generator as well. And the main issue and the main, or we see upside, is that you've got a very tight share structure. You're not going out to the market on an annual basis doing big raises for programs. What you're really doing is smaller raises for smaller, G&A. This year, we actually are generating more partner payments than we have G&A. So we're actually going to be cash flow positive. So here's an example of Reservoir. Some of you might be familiar with it. It started off at 17 million market cap. Well, surprise, surprise, that's where we are. After the discovery with Chukatopeki, their partner was Freeport, right? So they owned a minority position in that asset. And fundamentally, they were going to end up getting diluted down to a 2% NSR. And at the end of the day, they ended up getting taken out for 500 million plus. So that was a generator, and a generator model that demonstrated, even with a great discovery, even when you're not paying for it and your partner's paying for it, the equity markets appreciate new discoveries. So I think it's a very interesting model. I would recommend everyone do their homework on it, and I'm happy to talk more about it. And that is the end of my presentation.